You ever have one of those days where everything's just normal until it just turns itself inside out like a bad soap opera? That was me 2 months ago. I wasn't even in uniform. No badge, no blinking lights, just a dude having his weekend, sipping coffee on his front porch when it all went straight to hell. All thanks to one very pissed, very entitled HOA board member. You know the type. Let me tell you how a woman tried to teach me a lesson for parking in my own driveway and ended up finding way too late that I'm the chief of police. It started on a quiet Saturday morning. I live in a nice neighborhood. Nothing too flashy, but clean, quiet, and mostly peaceful. We've got a homeowners association, and although I'm not exactly a fan of those things, they usually don't bother me. I follow the rules for the most part. Now, one of the perks of working hard all my life and saving well is that I get to drive something I love, a sparkling silver 2022 Mercedes-Benz AMG. She's my baby, around $60,000. Not so much due to the price, but because it was a gift to myself after a tough year of toil. Every curve, every sparkle, every square inch of that car meant something to me. And that morning, I had just washed her. She looked flawless, parked right in my own driveway, sparkling in the sun. Enter Karen. Not her real name, of course, but if you've ever met an actual HOA Karen, you'll know exactly whom I'm referring to. She's the president of our HOA board. About 5 feet 2 tall, short blonde hair, always wearing massive sunglasses, even on overcast days. Always walking her tiny dog that yaps like it's about to start a war. I saw her walking along the sidewalk. I gave a polite nod. She didn't nod back. Instead, she coasted to a stop in front of my driveway, tilted her head to one side, and glared at my car like it had personally insulted her being. Then she pointed at it. "Excuse me," she said bluntly, like she was requesting something she disliked. "You can't leave that here." I blinked. "I'm sorry." She walked over like she owned the sidewalk in my driveway too. "Your vehicle is in violation of HOA Code 4.3. You are not allowed to park commercial or luxury vehicles in plain sight. Now, I'd owned that house for 3 years. I was familiar with all the rules in the HOA handbook, and this was not among them. Still, I kept my cool. In fact, I explained to her, there's nothing in the bylaws prohibiting you from parking a personal vehicle in your own driveway. And this vehicle is not commercial. It is registered to me personally. She indulged in a fake laugh. Well, it's obviously designed to impress. That's not the sort of image we desire around here. I was horrified. Impress? It's a vehicle. I did not buy it for anybody but myself. I bought it for myself. I am not committing any crime, I replied softly. If you believe otherwise, you may well make a mistake. Oh, I will, she snapped and drove away down the road with her dog barking as if it had just won a fight. I genuinely thought that would be the end of it. Folks complain, particularly when they have too much time on their hands. I thought she'd go home, perhaps mutter to her Facebook group and forget about it. But I didn't realize how bad Karen was. The following morning, I stepped outside and my heart halted. My Mercedes had vanished. Initially, I thought I was stolen. I actually ran into the road, twirling around like a maniac. My driveway was empty. No note, no warning, nothing. I called the police, of course, and it didn't take long for one of my officers to show up. I was still in shock when Officer Daniels showed up. "Chief," he said, getting out of his cruiser, "is everything all right?" I explained what happened. He made some calls, checked the tow records, and sure enough, someone from the HOA had called in my car as abandoned. And get this, they notified the towing company that it was blocking the sidewalk, which it wasn't. I had photos from the day before of it neatly in my driveway. I knew exactly who did it, Karen. At that point, I was angry, not just about the car, but about the fact that someone had lied, manipulated the system, and violated my property rights. That car wasn't blocking anyone. It wasn't illegal, and most of all, it was mine on my property. So I paid the outrageous $450 impound fee, recovered my car, gratefully intact, and decided to do this the right way. I didn't want to flex my badge. I hate people who use their authority to threaten others. But I do believe in justice, and now it was personal. First, I attended the next HOA meeting, dressed casually sitting in the back row. I didn't introduce myself. I let Karen do all the talking. She stood in front cowsly addressing community image qua issues. Then halfway through the presentation, she introduced luxury vehicle enforcement into the conversation as if it were policy. "We had a problem last week," she stated smugly. "A neighbor had the notion to drive a luxury sports car into their driveway. Obviously, that interrupts the community spirit we've worked hard to maintain. She never said my name. She didn't have to." Everyone stared at me. I raised my hand. Karen seemed irked. "Yes." I slowly stood up. "Can you quote precisely where in the HOA guidelines luxury cars are not allowed in driveways?" There was a pause. She glanced at the binder in front of her. "Well, it's an implied policy inferred." I said. "So, not written?" She stuttered. "We reserve the right to enforce community standards, and those standards are yours." Personal opinion. That's when a few other board members shifted uncomfortably. A few even glanced embarrassed. I continued because, if I'm not mistaken, any policy change of the HOA must be proposed, noted, and voted on, with homeowners provided notice. Isn't that correct? Karen said nothing. That's when I brought my phone out. "Also, I'd like to introduce into the record this photographic evidence of my car parked proportionately within my driveway and not in the way, and this tow ticket under false pretenses filed, claiming the car was abandoned and taking up a sidewalk." Dead silence. "And just in case everyone is aware," I said, laying my police ID on the table, "I'm the chief of police in this county, which means I have direct access to every towing report, violation log, and municipal code. What was done to my car wasn't merely wrong, it was illegal." Karen's face paled. I could see the wheels turning in her head, trying to learn how to back up. She muttered something about a miscommunication, but it was already too late. I wasn't seeking revenge, but I wasn't going to let this slip by either. The following day, I made an official report of property interference and false statements, because the HOA, upon Karen's explicit instruction, filed a falsified statement in order to get my vehicle towed. That is a criminal offense. The board summoned an emergency session. Karen was not smiling anymore. A week later, got a formal, written apology from the HOA, acknowledging their mistake, reimbursing my towing cost, and assuring me that Karen had been ousted from office as president. But that was not the high point. The high point was when a couple of my neighbors, who had always been too timid to object, came to me and gratefully thanked me. Karen had been pulling stunts like this for years, issuing false violations, threatening penalties, harassing homeowners who didn't fit into her vision. But no one had ever stood up to her before. Now they had, and let me tell you, there is no sweeter feeling than justice served cold with a badge in your back pocket and a Mercedes parked in your driveway. Karen learned the hard way that not everyone she tries to bully is going to roll over. Some of us fight back, and some of us carry a badge. So the next time someone tries to tell you what you can and cannot do on your property, make sure they're not writing their own rule book. And maybe, just maybe, make sure they know exactly who they're messing with. Because sometimes the quiet neighbor in a nice car isn't just a dude with good taste. Sometimes he's the law. Stories like this oughtn't be hidden. Let's shine light together. Post a comment with your thoughts or your own experience, and assist me in getting the word out there by liking and sharing. Press that subscribe button. We're creating a community that battles back,